Tonight, 12 News obtained video showing a Phoenix woman and her boyfriend less than an hour before, according to police, he shot and killed her this week.
There's a piece of security footage from December 17th, 2025 that nobody should have to watch. A woman stands next to a Nissan Altima on a Phoenix street. She's 39 years old. Her name is Katherine Cervantez. She looks exhausted, like someone who's already fought too many battles today. Her boyfriend is in the middle of the road, 21 years old, gesturing wildly at a car that almost hit him. He's angry, visibly angry, the kind of anger that doesn't just fade. Katherine waits. Then she gets back in the car. 30 minutes later, she's dead, shot, by him. But here's what's going to keep you up tonight. What happened in those 30 minutes? And why did the friend who tried to save Katherine's life end up staring down the barrel of a gun? Welcome to Domestic Crime Ledger. Hit that subscribe button. You smash the like and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Katherine Cervantez was a 39-year-old mother living in Phoenix, Arizona. By all accounts, she was loving, the kind of person people remembered, the kind of person who mattered to her family and friends. In late November or early December of 2025, she met Victor Giron. He was 21, 18 years younger. They started dating. 2 weeks later, she was dead. Let that sink in for a second. 14 days. Most people are still figuring out if they like someone's taste in music after 2 weeks. Still deciding if this is worth pursuing. Still being polite. Katherine and Victor were already drowning in violence. According to court documents, they argued constantly. Not occasional disagreements. Constant fighting. Katherine told her close friend that Victor had already assaulted her. Physically. Within days of them being together. Her mother knew they fought all the time. Katherine had mentioned it. She'd also told her mom something else. Victor kept a gun in his vehicle. Katherine's friend noticed it too. Victor didn't just own a gun. He carried it. Visibly, like it was part of his identity. So the question everyone asks is, why did she stay? Maybe she thought it would get better. Maybe she felt trapped already. Maybe she loved him despite the chaos. We don't know. What we do know is that the violence was escalating fast. December 17th, 2025. That was the day it all collapsed. The age gap mattered. The speed mattered. The warnings mattered. Katherine's mom knew. Her friend knew. They saw the red flags. But domestic violence doesn't always give you time to pull someone out. Sometimes it moves faster than anyone can react. How does someone go from meeting you to killing you in 14 days? By the time the sun came up on December 17th, Victor had already decided what he was going to do. He just hadn't said it out loud yet. December 16th, 2025. Katherine and Victor went to stay at her close friend's house. The friend lived near 12th Street and Mountain View Road in Phoenix. She knew about the fighting. She'd already seen Victor carrying a gun. Katherine had confided in her about the assaults. But that night, they stayed over anyway. The next morning, December 17th, the friend woke up and saw something that should have ended everything right there. Katherine and Victor were in the backyard, arguing, heated, going back and forth. According to the friend's statement to police, the fight was about alcohol and drug usage. Court documents don't specify who was using what, but it was enough to set them off. Then things got darker. At some point during the argument, someone made a comment about being stabbed. The sources don't clarify who said it or why, but that word came up, stabbed, in the middle of an already volatile fight. And then Victor said something that made the friend's blood run cold. He looked at Katherine and said he was going to shoot her. Not "I'm angry," not "I'm leaving." He threatened to kill her, out loud, in someone else's backyard. The friend had heard enough. She told both of them to get out, leave, take this toxic mess somewhere else. They left together. That was around mid-morning. Now here's the thing. This wasn't the first time Victor had threatened Katherine, but it was the most direct, the most clear. And the friend was shaken. She knew what she'd heard, but she didn't call the police. Maybe she thought they'd cool off. Maybe she assumed it was just talk, the kind of thing people say when they're angry, but don't actually mean. Maybe she didn't want to get involved in something that could blow back on her. Whatever the reason, she didn't make the call. That decision would haunt her for the rest of her life. If you heard someone threaten to shoot their partner, would you call the cops right then, or would you assume it's just talk? Let me know below. 1 hour. That's all the time Katherine had left, and Victor was already on his way back. About an hour after they left, Victor came back. Alone. He walked into the friend's house without knocking, without permission, just walked in like he owned the place. The friend saw him and immediately knew something was wrong. Victor looked at her and said he needed help. Then he said the words that changed everything. "I may have shot Katherine." May have. Like there was some question about it. Like he wasn't sure if pulling a trigger and firing a bullet into another human being had actually happened. But he kept talking. He told the friend that Katherine had pulled out a knife, that she'd threatened him. He was setting up his story. Self-defense. That's where he was going with this. The friend didn't buy it. She demanded to see Katherine. Now. They went outside. Katherine was in the back of Victor's Honda CR-V, slumped over, not moving, not responding. She'd been shot at least once. The friend's heart dropped. She looked at Victor and said what any rational person would say. "Call 911, now." Victor refused. She said it again. "You need to call for help. Call the police. Call an ambulance." He refused again. Instead, Victor told her to take Katherine to the hospital herself, in her car, the Nissan Altima. He wanted the friend to move Katherine's body from his vehicle into hers and drive her there. No authorities, no official report, no police involvement. Just move the body and go. The friend was probably in shock, probably terrified, probably trying to process what she was seeing. But she agreed. Maybe she thought it was the only way to save Katherine. Maybe she didn't know what else to do. So they moved her. Together. Victor and the friend pulled Katherine out of his CR-V and placed her in the Altima. The friend took Victor's gun at some point, probably trying to keep the situation from getting worse, trying to protect herself. She told him again, "You need to call the police." Victor refused. Again. Then he did something that showed exactly who he was. He demanded his gun back. The friend said no, she wasn't giving it to him. Not after what he'd just done. Not after he'd just killed someone. That's when he pulled out the second gun. Victor had been carrying 2 firearms the entire time. 2, not 1. He'd been walking around with 2 loaded guns like it was normal, like he needed that much firepower just to exist. Now he was pointing the second one directly at Katherine's friend. She had no choice. She gave him back the first gun. Victor took both weapons, got in his Honda CR-V, and drove away. He left Katherine's dying body with her friend. Just left her there. Didn't look back. Didn't check on her. Didn't call for help. He ran. The friend pulled out her phone and called 911 immediately. Police and paramedics rushed to the area near 12th Street and Mountain View Road. The call came in around 7:10 in the evening. When they arrived, they found Katherine in the Nissan Altima. She'd been shot at least once. Paramedics did everything they could. They transported her to the hospital as fast as possible. But it was too late. Katherine Cervantez was pronounced dead at the hospital, 39 years old. A mother, a daughter, a friend, gone. And Victor Giron? He was in the wind. Phoenix police now had a homicide on their hands. They knew who did it. They had a witness. They had a vehicle description. They had his name. They had everything except him. Victor was armed with 2 guns. He'd just killed someone. He'd threatened a witness at gunpoint. And now he was running. Detectives immediately started building their case. They spoke with Katherine's friend first. She told them everything, the overnight stay, the backyard argument, The threat Victor made when he said he'd shoot Katherine, how he came back alone an hour later, how he said he may have shot her, how Katherine was unresponsive in his car, how he refused to call 911 multiple times, how he made her move Katherine's body. And then the detail that made every cop in that room tense up, how Victor pulled a second gun on her when she wouldn't return the first one. The friend had been through hell. She'd lost someone she cared about, been held at gunpoint, all been forced to move a dying woman's body. But she gave investigators everything they needed. Here's the question. If Victor really thought it was self-defense, why didn't he call 911? A. He panicked and wasn't thinking straight, or B. He knew exactly what he did and was trying to cover it up. Pick one and tell me why. While Katherine's friend was giving her statement to detectives, Victor was already 2 hours south, headed for the border. Phoenix police didn't need to guess who killed Katherine Cervantez. They knew. Court documents laid it out. Witness testimony was clear. The timeline matched. Every piece of evidence pointed to one person, Victor Giron, 21 years old, armed with 2 guns, dangerous, and running. Law enforcement knew what they were dealing with. This wasn't someone who was going to turn himself in. Victor had already shown zero hesitation in threatening someone else with a weapon. He'd fled the scene. He was desperate. The clock was ticking. December 18th, 2025, 9:30 in the morning, less than 24 hours after Katherine was killed. Investigators got a hit. Victor's cell phone pinged in Gila Bend, Arizona. If you're not familiar with Arizona geography, here's what matters. Gila Bend is about an hour southwest of Phoenix. It's a small town, not much there except desert, gas stations, and highway. But here's the key detail. Gila Bend is on the route to Mexico. Victor wasn't running to a friend's house. He wasn't laying low somewhere in Phoenix. He was making a break for the border. Phoenix police immediately notified Border Patrol. They put out an alert. Honda CR-V, 21-year-old male. A murder suspect, armed with 2 firearms, extremely dangerous. Everyone was looking for him. A short time later, a Border Patrol agent spotted Victor's vehicle. It was heading south on State Route 85. Toward Ajo, Arizona. Ajo is even further south, even closer to the border. At this point, it was obvious what Victor was trying to do. Get out of the country, disappear, avoid accountability. He was moving fast, desperate, trying to put as much distance between himself and Phoenix as possible. Law enforcement closed in. They had eyes on him now. The net was tightening. Victor Giron thought he could run from what he did, thought he could cross the border and vanish, thought he'd get away with murder. He almost made it. Just north of Ajo, near State Route 85 and Rasmussen Road, Victor Giron crashed his Honda CR-V. It's not clear from the reports if he was driving recklessly, trying to outrun police, or if something else happened. What matters is that the vehicle went off the road, and Victor's escape plan fell apart right there in the desert. But even then, even after crashing, even knowing law enforcement was closing in, Victor didn't stop. He got out of the CR-V and ran, on foot, into the desert. Where was he going? There's nowhere to hide out there. No buildings, no cover, just sand and heat. But desperation makes people do things that don't make sense. Victor was in survival mode, trying to avoid what he knew was coming. Pima County Sheriff's deputies were already on the scene. They chased him down. It didn't take long. Within minutes, Victor Giron was in custody, covered in dust and sweat from running through the desert. I caught less than 24 hours after killing Katherine Cervantez. Detectives tried to question him. Victor didn't say a word. He invoked his right to remain silent and immediately asked for an attorney. That's his legal right. There's nothing wrong with that. But it also told investigators everything they needed to know. He wasn't going to explain himself. He wasn't going to claim it was an accident. He wasn't going to try to justify what he did with the self-defense story he'd told Katherine's friend. He knew he was guilty. Victor Giron was booked into Maricopa County Jail. The charges: 1 count of second-degree murder for killing Katherine Cervantez, 1 count of aggravated assault for pointing that gun at her friend. Both serious charges, both carrying significant prison time. When Victor appeared before a judge, the court wasn't taking any chances. Bond was set at $1 million. Cash only. Victor wasn't going anywhere. He'd sit in jail while his case moved through the system, waiting for a trial that would determine the rest of his life. But here's the thing investigators kept coming back to. If it really was self-defense, why did he run? While Victor sat in a jail cell, investigators were building their case, and they found something that changed everything. Security footage from near the friend's house. The timestamp showed it was recorded approximately 30 minutes before Katherine was shot. The video shows Katherine and Victor standing by the Nissan Altima. Another car nearly hits them in the street. Victor gestures wildly, aggressively. He looks ready to explode, ready to fight someone over a near miss in traffic. Katherine stands by the car, calm, almost detached, like she's used to this, like she's already checked out emotionally but doesn't know how to leave. Then she gets back in the vehicle. 30 minutes later, she's dead. Now here's the twist that made detectives stop and rewind that footage. The friend told police that Katherine and Victor left her house around mid-morning after the backyard argument. That was roughly an hour before Victor came back alone, saying he may have shot Katherine. But this video? It places them at the scene 30 minutes before her death. That means Victor didn't just snap in the heat of the moment. He didn't shoot Katherine in some sudden act of self-defense like he claimed. He came back. He had time. He made a choice. Forensic teams processed both vehicles, the Honda CR-V where Katherine was initially shot, on the Nissan Altima where her body was moved. They found bullet casings, blood evidence. They analyzed the trajectory of the shot. They documented everything, and every single piece of evidence supported the friend's account. Victor's story about Katherine pulling a knife on him? Investigators tore that apart. No knife was recovered from either vehicle. None. Not in the CR-V, not in the Altima, not at the scene. Victor also had no defensive wounds, no cuts, no scratches. Nothing that would suggest someone had threatened him with a blade. His self-defense claim was a lie, and the evidence proved it. The video, the forensics, the witness testimony, the timeline, the flight to the border, the refusal to call 911, the second gun, all of it pointed to the same conclusion. Victor Giron murdered Katherine Cervantez. And then he tried to cover it up. Katherine had 30 minutes. Victor had 2 guns. And the story he told? It was already falling apart. Investigators kept digging. They interviewed Katherine's mother. She confirmed what the friend had already said. Katherine and Victor argued constantly, all the time. She also told detectives that her daughter had mentioned Victor kept a gun in his vehicle. Katherine knew he was armed. She told her mom about it. The friend gave her full statement to police. Katherine had confided in her within days of dating Victor. She told her friend that he'd already assaulted her. Physically. Not weeks into the relationship. Days. Police started building a profile of what this relationship really was. This wasn't a sudden tragedy. This wasn't a good relationship that went bad in one moment. This was an escalation that everyone saw coming but couldn't stop in time. 2 weeks, 14 days. Most people are still in the getting-to-know-you phase at 2 weeks, still figuring out if they have anything in common, still being polite, still deciding if this is worth their time. Katherine and Victor were already deep in violence. The age gap mattered. 18 years. Victor was 21. Katherine was 39. That kind of gap can create a power imbalance, especially when the younger person is volatile, armed, and controlling. Victor wasn't Katherine's equal. He was a young man with unresolved anger issues and 2 guns. And Katherine paid the price for getting involved with him. The morning argument about drugs and alcohol wasn't the cause. It was just the final trigger, the thing that set him off. But the violence had been there from the start. Look at the pattern. Fighting from day one. Physical assault within days. Threats in the backyard hours before the murder. Then the murder itself. It's a textbook escalation of abuse. Except it all happened in 14 days instead of 14 months. No one had time to intervene. No time for restraining orders. No time for safety plans. No time for Katherine to realize how dangerous this man really was and get out. If cases like this matter to you, if you want to understand how violence escalates and what the warning signs look like, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover real cases, real consequences, and no filter. Don't miss the next one. Victor Giron sat in a jail cell. Katherine Cervantez was gone. And the system that should have caught this in time? It never had a chance. Victor Giron remains in Maricopa County Jail awaiting trial. The charges: second-degree murder and aggravated assault. He entered a not guilty plea, but the evidence against him is overwhelming. Witness testimony from Katherine's friend. Forensics from both vehicles. Security video placing him at the scene 30 minutes before the murder. His flight to the border. His refusal to call 911. His silence in the interrogation room. All of it points to consciousness of guilt. The self-defense story he told Katherine's friend? It collapsed under scrutiny. No knife, no defensive wounds, no evidence to back up his claim. Victor knew what he did, and he tried to run from it. But while Victor sits in a cell waiting for his day in court, the people Katherine left behind are living with the consequences. Katherine's friend, the woman who tried to save her, will carry that trauma for the rest of her life. She was held at gunpoint, forced to move a dying woman's body, and she lost someone she cared about deeply. Katherine's children will grow up without a mother. Her mother lost a daughter. Her friends lost someone they described as loving, kind, and deeply missed. This case shows how fast domestic violence can turn lethal. 2 weeks, 14 days from meeting someone to being killed by them. There was no time for restraining orders, no time for safety plans, no time for anyone to step in and pull Katherine out of danger before it was too late. Katherine told people what was happening. She confided in her mom about the constant fighting. She told her friend about the assaults. The warnings were there. But the violence moved faster than anyone could react. So here's the question that should keep all of us up at night. How many other relationships right now are 2 weeks in, already violent, already dangerous, and no one's paying attention? Katherine Cervantez told people what was happening. She confided in her mom. She told her friend. And it still wasn't enough. So what is? What does it take to stop the next one? If you're in a relationship where someone has already put their hands on you, already threatened you, already made you feel unsafe, get out. Reach out for help. Talk to someone you trust. Make a plan. Because the difference between surviving and becoming a statistic can come down to one bad argument. Katherine deserved better. She deserved a partner who respected her. She deserved to watch her children grow up. She deserved to live. This is Domestic Crime Ledger. We don't do boring. We do the truth. And the truth is, Katherine deserved better. See you in the next case.